God, my shepherd, I don't need a thing. You have bedded me down in lush meadows. You find a quiet pool to drink from. True to your word, you let me catch my breath and send me in the right direction, even when the way goes through Death Valley. I'm not afraid. You'll walk at my side. Your trusty shepherd's crook makes me feel secure. You serve me a 6-course dinner right in front of my enemies. You revive my drooping head. My cup brims with blessing. Your beauty and love chase after me every day of my life. I'm back home in the house of the God, the house of God, for the rest of my life. And I know some of you are going, Pastor, what did you just read? That's not my Psalm 23. That's not what I'm used to. That's not what I want to hear. Where did the part go that the way it begins normally? The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not. Instead, he read, God, my shepherd? I don't need a thing. Now, they mean the same. But do they sound the same? Do they tug at our heartstrings the same way? Or the part that got me, it really bothered me, hearing about a 6-course meal, that's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear, thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Even though I'm the guy that likes to bring a modern twist to things, there's some things I'm a traditionalist about. There's some things that I'm traditionalist about hymns. I love to hear real solid hymn singing. And if I hear the 23rd Psalm, this is what I want to hear. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Is that better? I agree. You know, the song, it's like an old friend. It's comfortable. It rings in our heart. It's our song. It's my song. It's the one that when I think, okay, I'm going to read a psalm, 23rd Psalm. It's the one I go to. It's one of the most popular scripture passages in the world. If you ask somebody to recite a passage, guess what you're going to recite? The 23rd Psalm. And they may not get it right, but they know the majority of the words all the way back to the King James English. It's like an old friend. It's comfortable. We've memorized it. We've contemporized it. We've set it to artwork. We've put it in song. It's followed us in the war, in the college classrooms, in the hospitals. It's met us right here in worship today. I've seen this song in action at bedsides in hospitals. When the person that I'm sitting there praying with and reading scripture to may not know everything that's going on, but the minute that passage is read, you'll feel a tug on your hand. You'll see a glimmer. You see a little bit more life going on. During the darkest times, this passage has been our friend. We've invited family members at the time of mourning to read this psalm together. When we're facing something that's challenging us, it rings in the back of our mind. Seminary students, spend lots of time dissecting it like they were in biology or anatomy, taking it apart word for word to try and figure out. And guess what? They always come back to the same thing. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. The 23rd Psalm is our psalm. It's right with us everywhere we go. And that's why this psalm, above all others, means so much to our faith. It's about who we are. It's about who God is. It tells our story. When we've heard it read, we think, I know what the psalmist was talking about. I get it. The psalmist was talking about me. The 23rd Psalm is a psalm of hope. Through the 23rd Psalm, we know what it is to discover God's grace. And when we're at the end of our rope, we know that we can carry on because God is with us. God's staff is keeping us going. Through the 23rd Psalm, we know God is with us no matter how bad the situation is. And situations get pretty bad. And God is with us at every turn in our life. No matter where we turn, when we remember God's promises, they're recited in that psalm. Goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our life. The Lord is my shepherd. Yes. The Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is your shepherd. And what about your life? What's your story about how the shepherd has guided you? You ever heard of headhunters? Yeah. I know you have. Corporate headhunters. They go out and find people and match them to a job. And they get paid to do it. Well, I didn't know it, but they even exist in the church. And you're going, what? When I was younger, I started out in youth ministry. And I itinerated way outside conference boundaries. I'm originally from Kentucky. I'm right across the river. I grew up in northern Kentucky, Alexandria and Southgate. I still call Cincinnati home. And I went from Maysville, Kentucky, where my first church, to Lexington, Kentucky, where I served as an intern and went to seminary. I went from there to New Jersey. And from New Jersey to Midland, Texas. That was a culture shock. And while I was in Texas, I got a phone call from this guy in the Northeast. He said, Scott, your name's come up and I want to talk to you. He was a headhunter. He had a church in Allentown, Pennsylvania that had been looking for a youth minister, had not been able to find the person they were looking for. And he knew about me. We had met a few times. And he worked with that church building a profile. I fit it, and he called me. I wasn't sure about this. That was a weird way to be called to a church, to be moved from one church to another, especially in the Methodist system. In my situation, I did have to find my job. I never had anybody find it for me. So, I got flown out a few times to Allentown. I was getting phone calls left and right from different leaders within their church. The pastor called me. The associate pastor called me. They were making it very enticing. And I prayed about it, and I felt like this was the right situation to go to. But God had other things going on. Because I got there, and my first Sunday, the senior pastor announced that he's retiring in 6 weeks. I'm like, wait a second, I just got here. This is the guy that spoke to me about things that we could do together, and he's leaving? Did I scare him? And then I started finding out how much conflict there was in the church. The youth were great. They're a blessing to work with. The youth leaders were talented. But there was so much conflict. This headhunter didn't know what he was doing. He wrote this profile and only interviewed the leadership within the youth ministry program, not the whole church. He didn't know anything about the church. And the church and the youth ministry program were two drastically different things. And I was caught in the middle. But it was God's leading, being the true shepherd, moving me through that situation. I was there for a reason, and at that time I didn't know what it was. But God worked in my heart. God worked on me. God worked on the situation. And I made it through. Because I relied on God, not on myself, not on anybody else, but on God. But then just a few years ago, found out my dad had bladder cancer. And some of you have met my dad. He's been here a number of times. He went through 4 or 5 surgeries. A couple times we didn't know if he was going to make it. That song was recited a lot. And God came through in the darkest hour, in the darkest time. I shall not want. He leadeth me beside the what?
Storm.
Have you ever been around sheep? They're the dumbest animals I've ever met. They are so dumb. Now, somebody's going to go, you're picking on them. I'll tell you, we did a mission trip, that same church, and we were in West Virginia. The house that we were working on, they raised sheep. Now, I can tell you all the stories about dealing with sheep, like we couldn't find tools one day and the sheep were laying on them. They would get in our way. They left stuff for us all over the place. Kids tripped and slipped, and I don't even know you need to go there. You understand what I'm saying? Well, there was a kid in our youth group. His name was Bush. His nickname. He was more like a tree. He was 6'6". He had just turned 16. About 300 pounds. Could have been a football player, but he didn't play football. He was just a big guy. Well, Bush had to use the porta potty that we had in the yard. We didn't see him for a while. I went looking for him. I heard this banging on a door. Realized that he was stuck in a porta potty because 2 of the sheep went and fell asleep in front of the door, and they weren't going to move for anything. They were stuck there. They were not going to move. That poor kid was in there for 45 minutes, and it was as hot as it was yesterday. And did you know that sheep, their composition, 70% of their body is water. And when it's hot out, they dehydrate quick. So they'll drink water anywhere. Doesn't matter how dirty or how clean it is. They'll drink out of a pothole if there's water in it. Were you hot yesterday? I was. I felt bad for my wife. She was at Kings Island working for my niece who had that food car booth event that they had. Food truck, yeah. She was working at a barbecue pit stand all day yesterday. Yeah, she came home and said, I want one of those big jugs of Gatorade. I got it because I knew how bad she was. It was hot yesterday. And if you just went out for a little bit, you could feel the need for something to drink. You could taste the sweat dripping. Sometimes dripping in your eyes, burning. You're thirsty. Only a good big glass of cold water can relieve you of that thirst. The truth is, for Christians, we attempt to satisfy our thirst in any way that we can. Sometimes we drink out of potholes. Augustine once prayed, "Oh God, you have made us for yourself, and we search and search until our soul is finally discovered rest in thee." And there was an ancient mathematician that said that inside every human being is a God-shaped vacuum. We're thirsty for something. And sometimes we don't even know what we're thirsty for. We're thirsting after God. And how often do we find ourselves drinking out of potholes? There are times when we think that life will be satisfied once I get that perfect car. What happens? You drive it for 5 minutes and you see the better car driving down the road. Or we think we'll be fulfilled when we find that perfect friend or husband or wife or a job or a pay raise. And then we'll be satisfied. And we find out that it just wasn't that good after all. We were better off before. Or when our kids are outgrown and we can have fun with them, then our thirst will be taken care of. Yet, when they get done crawling on the floors and start growing up, they don't want to have anything to do with their parents. They want to go do their own thing. Or we're going to be satisfied when we turn 65 and can retire and go traveling. Except the car breaks down. And the plans that we had planned don't work out the way we wanted them to. And it just doesn't seem like we're taking care of that thirst. How do we satisfy that thirst? We wonder if that thirst will ever be satisfied. And we really do have a God-sized vacuum within us, but we forget to realize that God needs to fill it. And we keep trying to fill it on our own. Maybe Augustine was onto something when he suggested that our thirsting is for God. The psalmist and Augustine both were telling us to quit drinking out of the potholes and drink the water of life. I know what they mean. I drank out of a number of potholes myself. I still catch myself doing the wrong things at the wrong time. I believe we've all been caught in these situations. And the good news is that there's a name put to the fresh and flowing water. It's Jesus Christ. At every turn, at every corner of our life, this good shepherd says, if any man, any woman is thirsty, let them come to me and drink. It reminds me of a song, and I promise you I won't sing it. I made a commitment a long time ago that I wouldn't sing any more solos in church. I heard that. Just for that, no. But when I was in college, I made a lame attempt at singing with a group. Luckily, there was enough voices to cover me up. But there's a song that always comes back to me, and it says, and Jesus says, come to the water and stand by my side. I know you're thirsty. You won't be denied. I've seen every teardrop. That in darkness you cried. And I strove to remind you that for those tears, I died. In the book of Revelation, we read, and let everyone who is thirsty come. Let anyone who wishes to take the water of life as a gift come. We're thirsty. I'm thirsty. We need to seek out the shepherd. We need to seek out the water of life. We need to quit drinking out of potholes. In the turn of the century, when musicians and actors would travel, there was an actor that would travel from town to town, and he would put on a one-man show. And at the end of the show, after all the applause, because he wanted a little bit more, he would recite the 23rd Psalm. And so one night he was on the stage, and the crowd loved him. They were into the show, and he came back out for his encore. And he did the 23rd Psalm. And this older gentleman walked up to the corner of the stage and said, Sir, can I recite the 23rd Psalm as well? Well, the actor figured, why not? No big deal. So he had him come up on stage, and the gentleman went up there. His voice cracked. He wasn't polished. and began, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And recited it word for word. And when he was finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the theater. The actor was furious. He went up to the man. He said, "What did you do? What did you do? I recited that song better than you did, but yet you had people in tears and all of what you did. How did you do that?" And the old man just looked at me and said, "Son, you know the song, but I know the shepherd. I know the shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd." Let's do it together. "I
shall not want. He maketh me lie down in green waters. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. For thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely my goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever."
Are you willing to be led to the green pastures of life? Are you willing to be led to the fresh waters of life? Are you done with potholes? Are you done with drinking water that doesn't fill you up? Are you ready to know the one who brings living water to us all, Jesus Christ? The doors of the church are open.